thank you guys all for joining the U.S. men's national team, coming off with the first competitive victory that we've had here on Stars and Strikes. 1-0, Jordan Siebatcheu coming off the bench to score the winning goal in the 88th minute. Ryan, I don't know what I was feeling more, excitement or relief, both, but the biggest thing is we're on to the final of the Nations League, and we got a big game coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, man. You mentioned how you're feeling during the game, and I texted you during the game. I'm like, man, I'm feeling nervous because
Don't want to do penalties.
Having just watched that penalty shootout last week with United and Villarreal, I did not favor a penalty scenario, and thank God we had someone step up because it seemed like we were playing well, especially in the first half. We were playing well, but the second half just seemed pretty lackluster, and we definitely needed somebody to show for the ball and get the ball in the net, or else it could have been anyone's game in penalties. So I'm really glad that we didn't have to go that direction.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what Honduras wanted coming into this game. Keep it tough. We knew they were going to be chippy. They started getting chippy, but they came to play. They were very direct, especially in the second half, created a lot of decent chances, namely the one that Zach Steffen had to make a big save. He had his one moment in the game, and he made it, and he did it. And that's what all the best goalkeepers in the world do.
Yeah, and apart from just Zach Steffen, we have to give credit to our defense as well. I mean, this was like you mentioned, Honduras came, they showed up to play, and a lot of people weren't expecting that. A lot of people were expecting a bigger scoreline. You and I both were. We were expecting goals up in the 3 and 4 region, but we had to grind for this one, and that's going to happen against these CONCACAF opponents. There's going to be chances from anywhere. Zach Steffen made sure that he was, alert at all times, and those defenders all made sure that they're grinding throughout the game. I think John Brooks especially showed up, and he took control of that back line and made it strong back there. So it was really good to see, as opposed to last week's, kind of jittery performance from the defense and, scattered and open. This looked like a really strong unit that we had in our back four.
Yeah, the biggest, not Costa Rica, the biggest Honduras chances all came off set pieces, which is, not a surprise being, a CONCACAF game and giving the level of the opponent. That's kind of what they like to do. And Josh Sargent came with a big save. He wasn't quite as clinical in front of goal as I think we would have wanted him to be. However, he came up with a big save, clearing a ball off the line, and it ended up being significant because the game ended 1-0.
Yeah, and it's good to see that kind of dedication from all the players as well. I mean, even when we're later on in the game, you're seeing a lot of defensive commitment from players that aren't a part of that back five. McKennie was putting in shifts. Somehow Leggett was still on the field, but he was doing a defensive shift. And it was good to see that kind of commitment because it means that this means a lot to these guys as opposed to the energy around the players that we've had in years past. It did seem like we had there was a better feeling around this game today.
Yeah, and the performance wasn't great. We can't sugarcoat that. Christian Pulisic, I don't think, was involved enough. He got a rightly deserved standing ovation when he got subbed off. However, that wasn't his best performance. We got to get him on the ball more. He's our best player, and having him have the second least touches on the team, on the field throughout the match, that's just not what you want to see. You just got to finish the chances. We're talking about Gio Reyna. I thought Gio Reyna was lively. I think he's probably one of our better attacking outlets throughout the game. He had that one chance, though. He did very well to dribble between two defenders. However, he put the ball wide. And, again, he's an 18-year-old kid playing a really, performing and doing stuff. And I think throughout the game, he started to get fouled a lot. And you could tell that was starting to take a toll on him. That Honduras right back, I think his name was Diego Rodriguez, was getting super chippy with all those different fouls and stuff, but it didn't really faze Gio. And I think he was one of the bright spots. However, at the end of the day, you got to finish that chance.
Yeah. And I think we could be looking at a very different conversation right now if Jordan Siebatcheu didn't come off the bench and save these guys because they got bailed out by an 88th minute goal. As simple as that. You said the performance wasn't good, and it was not. It was worrisome, and I definitely, seeing how Honduras came to show up, I was worried about things going south. But mentioning these players like Gio Reyna, Pulisic is, these players got bailed out today, but they're going to have to carry the weight as we go on against, bigger opponents. Like, if we go against Mexico in the final, we're going to need these players to step up. It's not going to be as easy to get bailed out, by an 88-minute winner. We're going to need our whole team to be kicking on if we want to fare against the big opponents. Clint Dempsey was talking before the game, and he's saying, this team hasn't played that big of opponents to be getting all of this hype quite yet. They have to be playing against bigger opponents, and we need to be dominating these smaller opponents if we even think that these players are ready to take on the big ones. And today they got lucky to get away with a win in the semifinal, but come time for the World Cup, it may not be that easy.
No, exactly. And come time by Sunday, it may not be that easy because Mexico's a good team, and if Mexico loses, Costa Rica's got some players that can do some damage. The reality is you got to be more clinical. We were clearly a better team throughout this game. We showed it. We had the better players. You could see the little moments of magic. We've seen in the comments right now, but Serginho Dest had a couple of moments where he weaved through a couple defenders, show a flash of skill. However, the final ball wasn't there. Christian Pulisic, the same thing. He had a couple really nice, clips into the box. However, final ball or the finish wasn't there. Josh Sargent, I thought, was absolutely fantastic, except when it came to finishing. And the reality is you want to win games against the best teams, you have to finish your chances because those chances become few and farther between the better the opponent you are playing. And we're going to play a better opponent than what we've been playing in that final.
Yeah, it seemed it was almost frustrating because things looked so good up until that final pass. Pulisic was taking on guys. Jess was dribbling past, pulling off skills and stuff as he does. But it's just if when it amounts to nothing at the end, it's like what's even the point? It looks great during, but we really, if anything, it's better to keep it simple if it means getting that final pass off. So it's definitely something that we got to look to those guys to improve on.
Absolutely. Let's get into the player ratings right now. Start as always with the goalkeeper. I gave Zach Steffen an 8 out of 10. Didn't have too much to do, but when he needed to come up with the save, he did.
Yeah, I gave him a 7.5 out of 10. Being very alert. He did his job when called upon. They tried to catch him out a couple times, and he was on the ball. So I think it was good from him. Good to see that he's focused and settled after the weekend defeat. But yeah, props to him.
Also, as to be expected, I think his distribution has definitely improved a lot. A lot of that obviously coming down to playing with Manchester City and in Pep Guardiola's system. Moving on to the defense, right back. I gave Serginho Dest a 6 out of 10. I don't think this was his best performance. Obviously, we mentioned he had a couple little flashes here and there where he'd have a little piece of skill or play a nice through ball. However, I thought going forward at times he was sloppy. He was misplacing some passes, and he got caught out a couple times. They didn't make him pay, but, the better teams will. And defensively, he was fine. So that's why I'm saying 6 out of 10 because it's just an average performance from a guy that we expect a lot more from.
Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, I gave him a 7 out of 10, because I did like some of his contributions, especially when he drifted in to the middle of the park. It was pretty. I think he found some good pockets, but just without that, final touch, it's really hard to say. Really hard to put him beyond that pretty much average performance, as you mentioned. So,
yeah, moving on to the other starting player, playing over at left back, Anthony Robinson. I gave him a 7 out of 10. I thought he was pretty good. He was solid defensively, played a couple of really nice balls in, namely one cross into Josh Sargent. The finish wasn't quite there. However, I thought Anthony Robinson definitely solidified his or Greg Berhalter's faith in putting him in the starting 11 for this one. And I think he should start the next game as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. I gave him also a 7 out of 10. I think he really took made that position his own. We talk about him that being his strongest position, and I think now after this performance, it's likely that he's made it his, especially at least for the final, because he looks strong in defense, and he's not a guy that gets forward all that often, but he did look like he can make a couple things happen when he went forward. So it's good to see.
All right, moving on to the center backs. Mark McKenzie, I'll give him a 7 out of 10. I thought he was really good. He did a couple really nice things. Defensively, at times, I think he was beat a couple of times. However, I thought he's pretty good in possession as well. 7 out of 10. I think he's solidified Greg's faith in him as well. I think in both of our preferred 11s for this game, we thought maybe Matt Miazga, who did come on in the 90th minute. However, I think he's done well next to John Brooks. And I think playing with John Brooks, the more and more they play together, the better and better that partnership is going to get.
Yeah, I think Robinson definitely helped make these two more comfortable in defense because, having someone as strong, making sure that their, left side was covered and having strong fullbacks definitely makes that center back pairing a bit more comfortable. I gave McKenzie a 7 out of 10 as well, not to drag too much on him. I think he did well as well. I think Brooks was definitely the star of the back line. I think he did phenomenally. I gave him an 8.5 out of 10. Just because I think, defensively strong as can be, and his influence on the attack, building out play from the back was among some of the best on the field from the United States. So props to him for linking up play into the final third and being the creative player when other guys weren't.
I gave John Brooks a 9 out of 10. I thought he was absolutely superb as well. He was the one that started the creation for that goal with the clip ball in towards Weston McKennie, and defensively he was sound. I think there was one giveaway where that was the one that started the chance eventually for Honduras. However, other than that, he was solid. I think he did a lot better in terms of when he got isolated, when either Dest or Robinson got forward. He did a lot better. He struggled with that a lot in the Switzerland game and did it better this time. He got beat right near the end there, which is really disappointing. By I believe Elise is how you pronounce it, but everyone else was there to cover him, and at the end of the day, it was his contributions going forward and his distribution that ended up helping us win this game. Moving on to the midfield, Jackson Ewell, I gave him a 6.5 out of 10. He's a guy I think we both have criticized a lot. However, I think this is a pretty good game from him. Defensively, I thought he was fine. He got in some really good positions to intercept some passes and break up play. And I thought his distribution at times was pretty good.
Yeah, not to drag too much on this midfield because I think there's really there's really lackluster all around. But when I think fine is the word for all three of these guys tonight because they really didn't offer too much. Obviously, McKennie getting the assist on the goal, which was good contribution from him. But Jackson Ewell, I gave a 6 out of 10 as well. Really just was fine. Didn't do anything too special, but he did his job. So obviously would prefer Adams there, but it was good that Ewell stepped up to the task and did it to the best of his ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, Sebastian Lletget, I gave him a 6 out of 10. Moving on to that fine conversation, I just didn't really notice him at times. At times it felt like he was almost in the way of Gio Reyna, as if Gio Reyna would try and take a player on, and Sebastian Lletget was just right there in front of him, closing down some of the space. He had a couple nice, balls here and there, got into the box a few times. However, that's all I can really say about it. His distribution off set pieces wasn't great. Yeah, I would have definitely preferred to have seen Yunus Musa, and I definitely think that's somewhere or something that Greg really needs to think about in his team selection for the final is Sebastian Lletget or Yunus Musa.
Yeah, I gave Lletget a 6 as well. I was like, as we're making all these substitutions, obviously we have, a lot of guys coming on. And then I noticed towards the end of the game, like Lletget is still on, getting in people's way. I was like, how did he manage to play 90 minutes? But he did
Greg
somehow.
Loves
and
Greg
yeah,
loves
he really does, man. He played the whole game, and it was really just an average performance all around. It seemed like, especially towards the end of the game, the movement that he's normally credited for was just kind of non-existent. He was just kind of hovering within the final third and just not really doing much to add to play. But yeah, he did have some good passes, some good link up, but overall, not too impressive.
Yeah, Weston McKennie, obviously, probably the best of the three. I gave him a 7 out of 10 just for that assist. But other than that, didn't really do too much. I thought he was fine. Going forward, didn't offer a ton. Got into the box a few times. Defensively, didn't really put a foot wrong. But he's a player we expect more from. and he's going to have to step it up in the final because he's definitely going to be one of the X factors, depending on Mexico even more so. But both those teams we could go up against are pretty good teams, and we're going to need him to step up.
Yeah, we talked about in our last episode what the most important aspect of today's game was going to be. We were predicting that it was going to be our midfield that, made the difference this game. And it turned out to be the complete opposite, because this midfield was really just kind of, whatever. It was there to prevent, us being totally exposed, but they really didn't offer too much, especially to the attackers. But, defense-wise, maintaining possession, it was all pretty standard. So I gave McKennie a 7 out of 10 as well, just because of that assist. Otherwise he'd be down there with Leggett as well.
Moving on to the front line, Gio Reyna, I gave him a 7 out of 10. Talked about it earlier. Had a really couple nice moments. He did well taking defenders on. I thought he was probably more involved than Christian Pulisic. However, at the end of the day, he missed his chance, and that's one he's got to finish.
Yeah, I actually gave Reyna an 8 out of 10. I really, as he tapered off in the second half, I didn't want to take away from the first half he had. I thought he was really lively and, really expressive, especially in like the opening 10, 20 minutes. I thought he was really good. But it a lot of it comes down to that opportunity. Maybe I'm being generous with an 8 out of 10 because, you put away an opportunity like that.
That turns into a 9 out of 10 performance. And if he puts that in, I think that game's completely different. An early goal against a team like Honduras, that means they're going to have to come after you, and it's going to open up a lot more space in behind. And that's those spaces where players like Pulisic, Reyna, and Sargent thrive. And I think the floodgates would have opened. However, you don't finish chances like that, and next thing you know, you need a 90th minute goal to save you.
Yeah, I definitely could have seen the game, turning. I think, our predictions very well could have been correct, 3-1, 3-0, if we had, taken advantage of that opening 10 minutes when we were just kind of, more fluidly playing up, down, out of defense and, down the field. If we had taken advantage during that time, specifically, Reyna scoring that goal, or, if Sargent had gotten on target, we could have been looking at a very different game. But just the fact that we couldn't find the back of the net, we just had to embrace the grind that was to come for the rest of the game. So, Reyna definitely could have done better, but I really liked his creativity and expression in the first half.
All right, moving on to Christian Pulisic, the other winger. I gave him a 6 out of 10. We know how good of a player he is. He just won the European Cup and obviously got that standing ovation when he came off in the 90th minute. And I think that was well-deserved, but not for the performance today. I thought we need to get him on the ball more. When he was on the ball, I thought he did some good things, but, I don't know whether that's a change in tactics, maybe a change in formation, put him playing more centrally. Maybe that helps. But the reality is, if you want to beat Mexico, if you want to beat Costa Rica, Christian Pulisic needs to get on the ball more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a bit disappointing as well. I mean, I gave him a 6.5 out of 10, but even when he did get on the ball, it was, like I mentioned earlier, it was good to watch. Like he looked clean on the ball, but it seemed like he was doing too much at times. Yeah, it was he did just a bit too much with the ball when he did get it, and it amounted to nothing in the end. He would either lose it from a tackle or just pass to nobody. And we know he's a smarter player than that. He's got to use his abilities to the best he can, and it seemed like every time the ball that he did get the ball, which was on very few occasions, he didn't make the most out of it. So kind of disappointing from him, but he is the guy that we know him to be, and he did deserve that standing ovation. He is a Champions League winner, so nothing to take away from him, and I'm sure he will be our best player on the field in games to come.
Yeah, hopefully in that final, because Christian Pulisic, we always talk about him being a big game player. Time to step it up, and he always seems to do it. I know he's going to do it. A guy that we do need to hopefully see step up more is Josh Sargent. I gave him an 8 out of 10. I thought he was superb, except for his finishing. We always talk about, Josh Sargent does so much good. He presses the ball. He runs the channels. He links up play so well. But there's always that but with him right now. Still only 21 years of age. But the realistic, when you think about it, he's got to finish those chances he got. The one off the cross from Anthony Robinson, he had a free header. Obviously, it's not an easy goal scoring opportunity, but puts it right at the goalkeeper. That's a chance he's got to take. You gotta have a little bit more quality than that.
Yeah, and I definitely thought Sargent could have been a man of match contender if he was able to get a goal or an assist on the board, because he was just absolutely balling up for some of the game. His link up play and his finding space and dishing out passes as he does. It was really good today. And I think it's the best we've seen from him in recent games for the national team. And I was excited because we always talk about the debate of who's going to play in that position, and it looked like Josh Sargent was making it his position tonight. But sure enough, he just couldn't get that that
final
output
touch.
Yep, that's right. And then sure enough, Cebachu took advantage of that and left his mark on the game instead.
Yeah, just as you mentioned, Jordan Siebatcheu going on to the subs. Let's start with the goal scorer, the match winner, Jordan Siebatcheu. I gave him a 10 out of 10. I'm not quite going to give him my man of the match because he didn't, do, I think, to affect the game in full, but he did his job. You come on as a center forward, your job is to score that goal, and that's exactly what he did.
Yep, I gave him a 9 out of 10 as well. It's a bit harder for me to give out the 10 out of 10s when you're on for 10 minutes or so, but yeah, same reason as you did. He came on, did what he was asked, got a goal. He did what a striker's supposed to do, and not much else. So props to him, and that really saved us.
Yeah, I probably should have given him a 9 out of 10, but whatever. Like I said, I was excited, but also relieved. That was more the excitement phase. That was the excitement phase because we are playing in a final. That's something to get excited about. The U.S. are going to be playing in another competitive game. We're going to get to see all these players. We've been wanting to see these guys, our A team, for so long, and now we're going to get to see them do it at the biggest stage that they can do it at right now in the Nations League final. All right, moving on to the other subs. Brendan Aronson. I gave him a 7 out of 10. Didn't do too much, to get involved in play. He was only on again for like 10 or so minutes. However, I think something that would go unnoticed was his run that actually cleared a bit of space for Cebachu in the box and allowed him to get more space to finish off that header and end up with winning the game.
Yeah, I think apart from Cebachu, I think Aronson was the most lively of the subs that came on. I think it was a good bit of energy to bring onto the field when we needed it. When things just started to look a bit dull, he kind of lit things up a little bit, with his runs and his, picking up of space. I think, he did, when Pulisic is fit, obviously, I don't think he really has a place in the team, but I think that's exactly what he can provide, off the bench is, he can definitely has something to bring to the table off the bench. And he showed that tonight, bringing on some positivity without directly getting involved. He did pretty well.
Reggie Cannon and Miazga Acosta, I gave them all 6s. Acosta had that one nice block, so maybe I'll give him a 6.5, chopping down their one attack. But other than that, they weren't on long enough to really have an impact.
Yeah, I actually did the same exact thing. It's like you're looking at my page once again.
Great minds think alike.
Yep, that's always how it happens.
We'll see if we're thinking alike in terms of man of the match. Who is your man of the match, except for Clint Dempsey's sunglasses, because those are awesome?
Man of the match, I'm giving it to John Brooks. Of course, I think he was he was dominating everything from defense and into attack. We could have been looking at a different type of game if it wasn't for him tonight.
And once again, the great minds think alike. I'm going with John Brooks as well. Just not even going to echo what you said because I think you summed it up perfectly. Moving on to focusing on that final. What do you think we have to do better? Just real quick before we wrap this up, because obviously we're going to have a pre-match show and it'll be all tailored to depending on who we play because Costa Rica and Mexico are two very different tactical sides.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of it comes down to that defensive. I mean, not that defense, but that midfield. We didn't see much from them, and if we go against Mexico, that midfield is going to have to be on block. We're going to need a strong midfield to go against Mexico because they're going to bring it to us, and we're gonna. That's when I really hope that we see Yunus Musa come into the side because I don't think the Jet is necessarily the personnel that we need or that is going to get the job done against a team like Mexico. So I think that hopefully, today that wasn't what was called upon, but our midfield may be called upon on the weekend. And I hope that by then, that's going to be the key factor that makes a difference in the game. If we have McKennie, perhaps Tyler Adams back, and
That would be huge.
all together.
That would be huge, because we talk about what Jackson Ewell does well and what he doesn't do well. He does well in distribution. We saw that today. But what he doesn't do great is covering a lot of ground. And when you're playing a team like Mexico, especially, if Tyler Adams is fit, he has to play, because we know how Mexico play. They're that high intensity all over the pitch, boom, 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 pretty much everywhere, trying to play fast. And I think Jackson Ewell could get caught out if he's playing there. But, if Tyler Adams isn't fit, I think Jackson Ewell has to start as well. I think he definitely backed it up today in terms of that. Kellen Acosta may have a shout, because he probably is a little bit more the athletic of the two. But I couldn't agree more with the Yunus Musa point. Yunus Musa, we know what he does well. He's a quality player. I think he's a better player than Sebastian Lletget. I think we would have been better with Yunus Musa playing in the starting 11 today. And I think he's going to start the next game as well. And then, of course, when we get chances, you got to finish him. A big question is going to be Josh Sargent. Is he going to start up top? I'd start him up top. Obviously, Jordan Siebatcheu came in, got the match winner, and I'd love to see him come off the bench and do the same if called upon. However, I think Josh Sargent, what he does for the team is so good, and he can help get the best out of the other players right now. I think it's got to be him.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. I think, despite not having that finishing touch, I think he did a lot today, and that was his audition for the final, and I'd gladly take him up front, at least for the majority of the game, if things unless we need to call upon someone else, because I think he created a lot of good for us, and I'd like to see him keep doing that. I think he's starting to get a foothold in linking up with Reyna and the other players around him.
Well, thank you guys all for joining us. We appreciate everything. We're going to have a lot more match content coming up for that final, a full pregame show coming up. Obviously, it'll be a little bit more tailored to whoever we're going to play, tactics, all that good stuff, preferred starting 11s, everything you guys want, post-game shows, halftime shows, and hopefully the boys lifting a trophy. So thank you guys once again so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Later, guys.